Hey, what's up, MythGuardians? Cool Cat here. Not with another MythGuard deck. Today we're actually going to be going over one of our previous decks. We're going to be looking at our budget Purple Valkyries deck. We're going to go ahead and just go over some upgrade options for that deck. Play a few games with our upgrades and see exactly how it works out. We'll hop into the original deck, throw in some upgrade options, and then hop into some replays with a short conclusion at the end. Alright, so here we have our original Purple Valkyries deck. It's just a pretty standard tempo, mid-range style deck where you flood the board with Valkyries, if you recall, and then you have a little bit of late game in the Black and Jotun and some buffed back alley Ronins to seal the deal. But with the upgrades we're looking at, we're going to be looking at the major blue mythics in Braggy Runesinger and Magnus Thorson. Those two blues mythics will go in pretty much any blue deck you build. We also do have a Kara Morning Wives, a really great Valkyrie mythic. Gets +1/+1 whenever an enemy minion is creative. So that can really just overrun the game and just take over. And then we also have Ingrid Stormdaughter. So it's a 7-mana 5/5, which isn't that good, but it does have Alpha Strike, so it's pretty hard to take down with a 5-attack Alpha Striker. But the Awaken effect, return all Valkyrie cards in your Boneyard back to your hand. So that'll refill your hand with a bunch of gas and the Valkyries. So you can just throw those back down if you're out of cards. But with this Awaken effect, we're going to look to moving away from Journey of Souls. Because when minion comes back into your hand from Journey of Souls, it's going to get Ephemeral, which basically means that when it dies again, it's not going back into your Boneyard. So we're actually going to move away from Journey, and we are going to look into moving to Turn of Seasons. So that way, when your Valkyries die, they stay in your Boneyard, and then you don't have to worry about them going away forever with the ephemeral tag. So we'll save that. And then let's see, so we have 4 cuts to make. I actually wanted to add in one more mythic. It's not Valkyrie related, but it is a really strong tempo option. So I actually wanted to add 2. I want to add the Misfortune, which is a really good aggro card. With giving minions at fragile 3 can make your smaller Valkyries into some killing machines. We could possibly add the Rogue Eidolon, but I'm not too into that in this tempo-oriented deck. Instead, I wanted to add in the Celestial Dragon, a 6-mana 8/8 Agile. The Demise effect is not too bad. The Ring of Eternity is a 3-mana +1/+1 and Immortal, so it's pretty expensive to play. And if the enemy's playing this on a minion, you can pretty much ignore that minion and then just play around it for the lethal. So with those 6 mythic cards that we added in, we have quite a few cuts to make. And my first cut is probably, let's see, so I don't want to cut too many purple cards with the 3-gem requirement on Celestial Dragon. We're probably going to look more into cutting the blues, so we can cut this Ice Spike. That's decent early game removal, tempo option. But we just added a lot of stronger options for that in the Misfortune. So I'm not too concerned about having that capability. I'm considering cutting this Thunderclap since we added in the Magnus. It's essentially the same thing. Magnus deals 2 damage to all enemy minions. It's just a Thunderclap that doesn't go face. And then along with that, we can consider... Let's see, what else will we cut? We can cut these 2 Pocket Instances, maybe. Either the Pocket Instance or the Knives in the Dark are the ones that I'm looking at cutting, or possibly, actually, we'll just cut this Juiced. It's not too key to have. You don't generally want your minions to be right next to each other like that, because there's some really strong AoE options for the enemies, and things like the Magmatar and different things like that. So we have one more cut to make. One thing that I do want to look at cutting a copy of is either Pentacle of Flavors or the God's Blood Transfusion. One of those two is going to be my final cut. I'll probably cut the God's Blood so that we don't end up a little short on purple gems, because we do have, again, that 3 gem requirement on the Celestial Dragon. So that is going to be our upgraded list. Let's go ahead and rename it Purple Valks Upgrade. And same as always, this deck list is going to be in the description via MYTHGARD Hub link. So take a look there and give this video a like while you're down in that area, and make sure you subscribe for more MYTHGARD content. But let's go ahead and hop into some replays and see how it plays out. Alright, so for this match, we're up against NLNS. They're playing a blue and red mid-range style deck. So we have our Frecky Scout on turn 1. We're going to burn our Ingrid. We're not really planning on playing that anytime soon, and we don't really want to get rid of anything else in our hand because that's all gas for the mid-game. But they will coin out their Thane to contest our Scout, which is pretty scary. Thane's a really strong early game card, especially against decks like ours, a more mid-range tempo style deck that can trade quite a few times. But we're going to go ahead and pop our Frecky Scout over to the right to try to run away from the Thane. They infuse it on over, completely using up their entire second turn to get rid of our 1-drop, which is a good tempo gain for us. We're going to drop our Valkyrie Tough on top of our pocket instance to take care of this Thane, but they're going to do exactly what we did on turn 2 and run it away from our Valkyrie Tough, and they haven't played a single card in 2 turns, which is really, really handy for us. We're going to go ahead and whack their face with the Tough and then drop down our 4-mana 6/5 back alley Ronin to contest this Thane. And they do have a Daughters of the Forest, which trades very well into our Valkyrie Tough. So instead of worrying about that, we're going to go ahead and impel it right on over and take care of that Thane, so we can swing 6 damage right to their face and drop a Tough over on the right-hand side of the board and really spread out wide to try to overtake this entire board from them. They push their Daughters of the Forest over to the left and take down our back alley Ronin with the Alpha Strike onto the Overrun Speedway, making that a really clean trade for them. But we are going to go ahead and just completely take over the right side of this board since they invested so many resources over to the left. But with this play, they're going to drop the Wings of Abaddon onto their own Speedway and take out our Braggy, which is perfectly fine. That leaves our Valkyrie Tough up for this Road Queen buff. And we're going to burn our Knives in the Dark to give us that second purple gem in case we need to play this Pentacle. And they're going to swing at our face and then drop the Wings of Abaddon onto the Speedway, giving it immune, and take down our Road Queen, which is just fine because we top deck this Racer to take that out real easy. We're going to drop our Kara all the way to the left and spread out wide once again and just keep control over this board and not let them have a single inch. They do play the Panic Raider to get that card draw from the Overrun, which is a very, very good synergy to have with the blue-red decks. They're going to drop their Trapezist to block our Kara. We go ahead and throw down the Pentacle of Flavors onto Kara to give it the regen so that it can heal back up to full. And we'll drop our Tough right next door to try to clear anything that they play and then let our Kara go face, but they do have a Thunderclap to clear off our Tough, and we are in a top deck situation right now, but thankfully we do top deck our Demolition Speedway, giving us exact lethal thanks to Slayer and Overrun, giving us the perfect amount of damage to go straight to their face. So that'll just show you the ability of this deck to just completely take over the board and don't let them take a single inch while we clear all of their minions and still get that face damage in, so that we can close out the game relatively early but still have the value to take it a little later. Alright, so in this game we are up against Reg. They're playing a really interesting 4-color, at least, Gem Cutter Spiders list. Gem Cutter Spider is basically a card that gets stronger the more gems you have. We don't have a 1-drop this game, so we're going to go ahead and burn a blue so that we can play our Valkyrie Tough on 2. We do top deck our Frecky Scout, which is going to come in handy a little later. Tempo that out. It's really easy to float a mana with this deck, so you're going to be able to just drop this pretty much for free when you wouldn't be playing anything else. They dropped the Demo Speedway on 2 with no minions on board, so that gives us a free swing straight to their face. We're going to drop down our Road Queen to buff up our Valkyrie Tough, and it'll also help to get a little bit more tempo once we do drop this Frecky Scout. When we float a mana or so. They're going to coin out their Tailroot Worm, which is a little scary. An 8/6 overrun on turn 3 is really hard to deal with. Thankfully, we do have our Valkyrie Enforcer. We're going to go ahead and bounce that back into their hand, completely getting rid of anything that they did on turn 3. And also turn 4 as well, because they're just going to have to burn a card and replay that card. So that's a really, really good tempo swing for us, just completely mitigating and negating one of their entire turns. We're going to drop the Storm Daughter's Chosen and the Racer in Shadow, so we're going to throw the Racer and the Valkyrie Tough into the Worm to buff up our Storm Daughter. And then we're going to go ahead and burn the Knives in the Dark and drop that 1-mana 3/2 with Swift over on the right-hand side and completely take over the entire board. They're going to burn that 4th color just to show me that they're a 4-color Gem Cutter Spiders deck. They're not going to drop the Spider or anything because there's nothing that they can do to block lethal that we do have on the board multiple different ways. So that is the list. It's a very tempo-oriented, mid-range style deck. You use your Valkyrie synergies along with your more tempo-oriented purple cards like your Racer and Shadow, your Back Alley Ronins, your Knives in the Dark to really take control of the board, flood it with your Valkyrie minions, and really just control the board and swing at their face whenever you're able to. But really, don't swing at their face over killing off a minion, I would say. Use your efficiencies to trade up on a lot of their drops, and use your Valkyrie synergies to buff up your other Valkyries when you trade off. But that is pretty standard. I wouldn't say it's exactly a tier 1 deck. Maybe I would put that around maybe tier 3 or so. There's a lot of possibilities for a dead draw. You might consider subbing in some more purple 1-drops, that would really smooth out the curve a little bit. But other than that, it's a pretty solid deck idea. There's probably a lot of optimizations that you could do on it. I haven't played too many games on it, maybe 30 or 40 or so games. So there's definitely a lot of changes that could be made. If you have any suggestions, make sure you leave them down in the comments, and like the video if you like the deck, and subscribe to my channel for more MYTHGARD content. And remember to GG for Matt.